Today on Locked On Rockies, are they going to dip below 500?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of May. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. We are live on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and help support the show. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are going to talk about the Rockies and the Royals series, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we need to see from this team to avoid dropping under 500. Arguably the toughest stretch of back-to-back series for the Rockies coming up next, even if they are home series. Got to talk about the bullpen. And a listener wanted to know about the run differential and the story about that. So we're going to talk run differential as well today. But before we dive into that, got to remind you that this wonderful podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. Today's episode brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Like I said, talking Rockies, talking Royals, talking about a series that honestly was disappointing at the end of the day. This was a series the Rockies had ample opportunities to win, ample opportunities to kind of take over and dominate, but instead the Royals hit everybody. I mean, the Royals were scoring runs all over the place. Yes, the Rockies also were able to do it. It was a Coors Field series all over the place, but the big concern here is just the sheer volume of runs the Rockies gave up to a team that just fired their hitting coach and currently is sitting at 12-20. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, a team that walks away from this series 12-20 just beat the Rockies at home, where they're supposed to be great. It's simply it's inexcusable, honestly, when it comes to the competitive. If you want to maintain your competitive window, if you think you're going to be a competitive, if you're saying the narrative that we are a competitive baseball team, can't be losing to the Royals at home. Can't be giving up all these runs. Can't be blowing saves in the after your team comes back 7 runs in the game there in one inning. A walk, hit, 2 runs in the top of the 9th. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. The Rockies shouldn't have been down, they were down 6-0 in that game anyway. I mean, there was a whole lot that was unacceptable. The Rockies continue to not miss bats. Austin Gomber, it wasn't horrible yesterday, but 3 earned, 2 home runs, 3 strikeouts, 4 hits. I mean, those hits did damage. The 3 walks are the big concern there too. I mean, walks killed the Rockies. Free passes, and I saw Manny there tweet about this. I'm pretty sure. Free passes at Coors Field are especially dangerous, are especially bad. So that's a big story, a big takeaway from the Rockies losing to the Royals in this weekend series. Not only the fact that the Rockies gave up a ton of runs, played sloppy defense in some areas, they had some good things. Their pitchers just couldn't avoid the walks. 3 walks there from Rockies pitching in the first game. That wasn't really the issue. Kyle Freeland just wasn't sharp, and they were just on him, giving up 12 hits, a career high. The Rockies weren't missing barrels. They weren't finding the strike zone. They had the one good game, on Saturday where they do dominate. But the Rockies pitching staff gives up a total of 26 runs over a 3-game set. That's a ton. That's a ton of runs. And the idea of this rotation, the strength of this rotation is supposed to be coming into Coors Field and limiting the other team's offense from doing that. Instead, a team that just fired their hitting coach after the series, a team just scored 26 runs, had 18 hits in a game. Their offense, they're still not worried or as pumped about their offense that they fire their hitting coach. The bullpen has fallen apart. The bullpen and the starters not being as sharp as they can be. So what we saw in game 1, especially, if the starters struggle, Rockies got to turn to this bullpen and rely on a bullpen that's just shaky at best. They've shown potential, sure, but we've learned that this is not a bullpen that you really can count on. The Rockies went through 4 pitchers in the bullpen pitchers in the 14-10 loss on Friday. Those pitchers, Colome gave up 4 runs on 4 hits with 2 strikeouts. Carlos Estevez gave up 2 runs on 2 hits and a walk and a home run. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Especially when the Rockies are they are taking advantage of the bullpen of the Royals, bouncing back into that game in the 5th and in the 7th and the 8th. They were fighting back in it, but when your pitchers are continuing to let that lead slip away, giving them the free passes, giving them all of this, the extra time and the extra runs, it's just brutal. Justin Lawrence sitting. We talked about this last week, and it's again clear. This bullpen needs a change. Go to some of the young guys. Get Justin Lawrence back up here. In the live chat here, Nick Tolan says, Sam Fresh Face Hilliard was such a bright spot. Yeah, that was, Sam Hilliard did have a good day. I think he's going to continue to be overshadowed by a really, really good Jonathan Daza right now. But yeah, it's Hilliard not striking out, putting the ball in play while he's filling in for who's out for with Sam Hilliard filling in. Anyway, yeah, no, nice little weekend there for Sam Hilliard. Coming, especially with how tough that stretch was there. He goes hitless in yesterday's game though, but did pick up a couple of hits, scored a couple times in this series, which is good for him, especially get things back on track. Let's see. Adrian Ortega says Colome comes into the 8th every game, gives up 1 run at least, and it's painfully slow. I don't know. This was a signing that was interesting. He's someone that still could be potentially a bright spot for the Rockies, but he gives up 4 against the Royals. He was fine against the Giants on the 11th, but also a run here against the Diamondbacks. He's given up. If you're going directly with what you said, he has thrown 10 innings. He has given up 10 runs. So by the numbers, yes, statistically, Alex there has given up a run every single inning that he has pitched so far. Eric Harper in the live chat says, we should have swept the Royals. I think so too. I mean, it's kind of inexcusable. I mean, to lose the series, to not be able, Bard needs to come in and shut the door there. The Rockies simply need to regain the confidence. And I think there's some stuff to point at that confidence might come back, that the change might come to the Rockies. And I'll talk about that here in just a second. But first, got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the number one source. Yes, folks, the number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Avalanche finally get their schedule released. So if you want to get in on the betting action for the Colorado Avalanche as they begin their playoff run again, I should say, restart after what seemed like forever. That action gets going on Tuesday. You can drop into the games and place bets. That's what's fun about the live betting and cool there. Always bet responsibly, though. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online. Bet online, where the game starts. Jumping into the live chat here. Lawrence in AAA is actually laughable at this point. What do we have to lose, honestly? I try not to be overcritical or upset, but that one doesn't sit well for me. It shouldn't sit well for you. The Rockies need to find a space for Justin Lawrence, especially when you look at this bullpen that's severely not performing the way it needs to. And Lawrence has still struggled with command, but has performed this year and deserves the opportunity to get the consistency. Do we really need to see what the Carlos Estevez experiment is going to be? We have to sit here and look at some of these veteran relievers that aren't performing and really question and understand and question the role that they play on this team. There's how much confidence, how much lack thereof of confidence do you have when some of these players are going out there, especially being cold, versus I like even when Trevor Lawrence, or not Trevor Lawrence, Justin Lawrence struggles. I just think the arm angle, the velocity, the speed, and the fact that he's younger and needs to be up there listening to Bud Black, getting reps with Bud Black and this team with someone like Elias Diaz. I don't know. That one is frustrating. Adrian asks, with Daza staying hot, are we looking at Blackman at DH, Randall right field, Daza center field, and Bryant right field? That is a great question. I mean, it truly, truly depends on what the Rockies want to do with Charlie Blackman and that defense. The Rockies are much better on defense with Randall, with Daza, and Bryant as the defenders, with Blackman DHing. It simply just, it makes too much sense. Daza has been far too valuable, whether at the top or the bottom of the lineup, to that offensive presence, mixed with the fact that he's a dang good defender. He's got to be in the lineup and at least every day until he cools off. Daza, we're gonna have to dive in. I really want to I might have to reach out to our friends at Purple Rope, bring someone on here to, because Jonathan Daza's rise has been really important. And if he hits well, mixed with the heating up Brendan Rodgers, mixed with Chris Bryant coming back, that's what I mean when the momentum could shift for the Rockies here soon. If the Rockies can hold on, I mean, even if they dip below 500, because I mean, folks, I'm not feeling super confident about the Rockies staying above 500 after this next stretch, but there are things that the Rockies can look at and say, okay, that'll be interesting. The Rockies in this tough stretch of ball have been playing without Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant did make positive impacts on this lineup, and if he's coming back into the lineup, and remember, the Rockies are having success with Chris Bryant being great and Brendan Rodgers being terrible. Now, if Chris Bryant and Brendan Rodgers mixed with improved offensive performances from Jose Iglesias and Jonathan Daza, adding on your Connor Joe, hopefully Elias Diaz breaking out of his slump, your CJ Cron, your Ryan McMahon, that starts to be the foundation of an offense that should start turning things around. If those are if those players are able to keep up the consistency with these strong offensive performances, especially from Daza and from Iglesias, mixed with what we expect from Chris Bryant and honestly Brendan Rodgers, the Rockies hopefully will start scoring more runs. And they've shown their ability to score a lot of runs. As we saw against the Royals, they did take advantage of subpar pitching. We saw that the Rockies offense was able to hit it against a pitching staff that isn't that great. Unfortunately, they weren't backed up by their own pitchers. It was kind of the flip of what we've saw on the road, where the offense does come, albeit a little late in the two losses, honestly. But the Rockies bounced back. The Rockies offense stayed in it. The Rockies offense took advantage of a bad bullpen. The Rockies need to put complete baseball together. When they hit, they don't play offense and they don't pitch. When they pitch, they don't play defense and they don't hit. It's simply a frustrating conundrum, but you have to take some of the positives from the Rockies right now and have to think that if they can put it back together like they were at the beginning of the year, when things were kind of moving the right direction, when the team was developing its identity, when it had its pieces there, then you can hope that for a stronger, more competitive, a better Rockies team. However, we're not in that point yet. That point hasn't been reached yet. Chris Bryant is being sent down to go do some rehab. That's what at least I'm seeing reports of. Sounds like he'll be going playing some ball. If things go well, we'll be joining the team on Friday, which would be massive for the Rockies. But the Rockies have the San Francisco Giants in town. And then I believe, if I'm correct, do they get the reprieve? Did I get the schedule wrong? But I believe, no, that's right. The Giants and then the Mets before the Rockies go on the road. So here it is. This is your easy schedule has ended, and you blew your last kind of safety net opportunity with the Royals this weekend. How are you going to respond to the Giants punching you in the mouth? This is a Rockies team that needs to bring the fire and the energy to this division matchup and take down the Giants this series. if we want to see that add to the momentum and see if they and get things back on the right track. However, if we kind of look at history, if we look at the way the Rockies have played against the Giants, and if we looked at that, it's going to be a tough task. Nick, you nailed it there. No Rodon this series, thank goodness. Jumping here back into the live chat. Nick Tolan says, Daza definitely needs to find a spot somewhere. Adrian, I couldn't agree more. Charlie has stated he hates playing the DH, so only that might be why we won't see Chuck at DH. And Eric says, we're definitely going to fall below 500. It's going to be tough. Nick adds to his Charlie Blackmon comment. I also understand Charlie hates only being the DH, but winning isn't about what Chuck wants. If he can't play the field well, that's on him, unfortunately. And you can't argue. There is no argument to be made that the Rockies are not a better defensive team with Jonathan Daza and Rendall or Sam Hilliard in the lineup than Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon hasn't necessarily been awful on defense, but you still watch stuff get hit to right field, and you just kind of cringe. However, he's been swinging it. He's been a routine, but you got to mix things up. You got to change up. The Rockies have done a bunch of different lineups. You can't be just shying away from the fact that Charlie Blackmon needs to step up and fill that DH role when you can play better defense, especially at Coors Field. Look what happened. If you give up 18 hits in the game, you're going to lose. And the Rockies Charlie Blackmon on defense isn't going to help out in that type of shootout when 18 hits are being hit. I know he was did he play in the right? He was the DH in that game. Didn't really help much. It's maybe not the best example, but I'm just saying, if they're going to be running, if the Rockies defense needs to run all over the field, I'd like it to be the players that are better defenders. Let's see here. Eric Harper is skeptical of Chris Bryant's contributions going forward. I don't necessarily think that's a fair shake to give. I think you can maybe be skeptical if you want to base on career stuff, but before Chris Bryant got cold, he was contributing a ton to this team. He might not have been putting the ball out of the yard, but the fact that his slash line was really good, and the start to the season, Chris Bryant was the way the Rockies were scoring those runs. Chris Bryant was the reason the Rockies were not 1 for 19, 1 for 20, or whatever we want to say, with runners in scoring position. He played a massive role in that. And he also pads CJ Cron and Elias Diaz. There's more, like we talked about a lot in this offseason. Without Chris Bryant in the lineup, there's more offensive pressure put on Elias Diaz. And I think that's causing him to want to do too much. Instead, we need Elias Diaz to be able to fill his role in the middle to the back half of that order, to be the power to back up Jonathan Daza and Jose Iglesias if that's what they're going to be in the lineup. If you don't have Chris Bryant, Diaz usually moves up, or Diaz is usually expected to kind of be a quote-unquote power bat or something like that, like we've seen, because we know he can hit home runs. However, Elias Diaz hasn't historically always been a tremendous hitter, and we really shouldn't be expecting Elias Diaz to be one of the top Rockies offensive contributors, other than in terms of a leader. Top three, top in the leading some Rockies, above others. Yes. However, without Chris Bryant, you have to turn more. You have to rely more on these other players that haven't really shown that they are going to thrive as being the key contributors to the offense. Look at Ryan McMahon, for example. Look at what happened or Brendan Rodgers can be that player, but it took a while to get there. I think we're seeing Brendan Rodgers show the potential for him to get to the spot where he is someone that is to be expected to contribute on offense, not necessarily putting the ball out of the yard, but getting 2 hits a game, putting the ball in play, and being a threat on the bases. Chris Bryant, I don't know. I think we'll see what actually comes out from his contributions, but you putting Chris Bryant back into this lineup is a massive upgrade for the Rockies. It takes playing the time away from some of these other younger guys, sure, but do we want Sam Hilliard in the lineup, or do we want Chris Bryant? I mean, let's be 100% honest. We have to see a lot of Sam Hilliard. We have to see a lot of Rendall. We have to see a lot of the rotation of the Rockies' depth of outfielders instead of someone who's a former MVP and supposed to be the superstar of this team. So I think, to be skeptical, yes, I think you can keep that in check. But Chris Bryant is a good baseball player. In fact, a great baseball player. And when he's in this lineup, the Rockies are better. The Rockies were a better team. We saw it at the beginning of the year. I think this offense is more potential, and it will help the Rockies get back on track. However, it's still taking a while. Is this going to come back to is he going what's coming back off the injury going to be like, and how long is it going to take to him to get into the swing? Because I mean, we're 30 plus games into the season now. The season is a rolling. The Rockies have to stop the bleeding now. The Rockies have to stop this skid. They have to start playing winning baseball. They need to start winning weeks again, or else they're going to be in deep, deep trouble. The NL West keeps winning, folks. And that includes the Diamondbacks. But while I think the Rockies drop this series to the Giants and fall below 500, I think Chris Bryant coming back against the Mets, the Rockies are going to show that they can rough up some pitching in Coors Field and go on a road trip against two teams that they should be able to have success on the road in Pittsburgh and Washington. Chris Bryant coming back is a massive change for this Rockies team, but you got to stop the bleeding somehow. You can't get swept by San Francisco. You really need to win this series against San Francisco because your division performance is going to plummet there, and it's going to get even harder and harder to make up any ground in the National League West. Dipping below 500 doesn't ruin the Rockies season, but this is the slip that people were worried about. This is the regression Rockies step that a lot of people were thinking about and were hoping we were going to avoid. But unfortunately, the Rockies, when you really look at the roster, when you look at the pieces, and when you look at this team, you can't be that surprised. Regression was coming, and regression hit this Rockies team like a sack of potatoes, a big sack of potatoes. Can they bounce back? I think so. There is potential here. There is potential for this. I'm not saying this team, again, still isn't the cream of the crop, but the bullpen can get better with some of the arms that aren't in it right now. Maybe you use some of your depth. Maybe you're able to flip some stuff. Maybe you just get some bounce back performances from this bullpen after a tough stretch. It's going to be a long, bumpy road, but it's been real bumpy lately, and I hope that changes the rest of this homestand, because, man, would have been great to just bounce back and just get nice series win against the Royals. Instead, the Rockies dropped their first series at home this year. One of my listeners wanted to talk about the run differential, so we're going to talk about that. We'll also dive back into the live chat. But before we do that, got to tell you about some of the great people that make this podcast happen. That includes Built Bar, and they sent me the new limited edition Built Bar Puff birthday cake puff. So before I take a bite, it's described to me as, imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein bar or protein. That's what it's like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. So let's take a bite here. I mean, that's pretty much right on. It's pretty spot on in terms of, it tastes exactly like dipping your finger into the tub of ice cream. And it's so chewy, so delicious. Built Bars are such a great snack for you. Let me chew this here. But it's kind of hard with marshmallow. I didn't really think about that doing a read. So I'll try to do this as appealing as possible. Built Bar is it tastes like candy, folks. It tastes like literal icing that I just did, but on the bright side, instead of feeling bad that I just put my finger in a tub of icing, it's a protein bar with 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, and 9 grams of sugar. I'm a big sugar fan. I love sugar. So something like this, something like Built Bar, having the ability to kind of hit that sweet tooth and also be able to get you that protein benefit without going too crazy on the sugar is a huge win for me. Go see for yourself, taste for yourself, enjoy all the great stuff Built has to offer at Built.com. And when you head to Built.com, you can use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. If you are interested in the birthday cake puffs, it's a limited time flavor, so you got to act now. Head to Built.com, get 15% off your order with the promo code LOCKed15. I don't know why I decided to challenge myself and do an ad read with a mouthful of marshmallow, but it was delicious anyway, nonetheless. And now I can finally clear out. It was good though, man. It was such an interesting texture on those Built Bar Puffs. I love them. Anyway, one of my listeners wanted me to, he said, talk about the run differential and the story that it tells. So, okay. I said, all right, let's take a look here. And this one's for our listener, Caleb there. And if we look here, the top teams in baseball, a lot of talk about the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Angels, and the Astros, and the Mets, and St. Louis, of course. Well, guess what? All those teams I just mentioned make up the top 6. The 7th-ranked team, San Francisco Giants, rolling into town next. Wow, those teams aren't named Colorado. Well, where are the Rockies? They play at Coors. They score a lot of runs. I'm sure they're up there. No, the Rockies have a negative 28 run differential. They are in the bottom of the league. In fact, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are 8th worst in the league. The White Sox, the Orioles, the Tigers, the Nationals, the Royals, Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Cincinnati Reds are the only teams with worse run differentials than the Colorado Rockies. Teams that have that are close to the Rockies with better run differentials: the Oakland Athletics, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Atlanta Braves, the Texas Rangers, the Boston Red Sox, the Chicago Cubs. Those teams are the next 5 up. Now, what's the story behind that? That's simply that the Rockies offense is underperforming. The Oakland A's cannot be a better offense than you. They cannot score more runs than you. They cannot be in a more efficient offense. This is, however, again, a product of not having your superstar in the lineup. I think the Rockies still struggle with this run differential thing because the big takeaway, too, from it is the Rockies don't score on the road. The Rockies are minus 46 on the road this year. That's their run differential on the road. We're on MLB team run differential on teamrankings.com, by the way. And Rockies minus 46 on the road, plus 18 at home. I mean, if you're talking about, if you want to, everyone that loves to feast on Coors Field narrative will look at that run differential, and that is all the ammo, all the fuel they need. That is a tremendous gap when it comes to your home and road splits. When you look at let's look at teams at least like close to Rockies with negative run differentials. The White Sox are minus 5 away, but they're kind of the drastic. They can't hit at home. They're minus 25 at home, so they kind of have some issues there. Baltimore, you shouldn't be comparing yourself too much to Baltimore. Baltimore is like the Rockies, abysmal on the road and good at home, but that's not a good comparison. You don't want to be just like the Orioles, where you can't hit on the road, but you're good at home. It's not a good team to be comparing yourself to. Oakland, on the flip side, can't hit at home, scores on the road. That's what's saving them. Most teams that are above the Rockies in terms of run differential, at least the next 3, Arizona, other than Oakland, so you take Oakland out, but Arizona, Toronto, and Atlanta both have negative run differentials, both at home and away, but are kind of closer together. For example, Atlanta is minus 6 at home and minus 8 away. That's that's just showing that the offense is struggling, not necessarily that there's such a big difference. If you're performing that well at home, as Colorado is one of the best hitting or best scoring teams at home, with having the best run differential at home out of any team outside of the top 10. If you were just going in home run differential, the Rockies would be one of the top teams in the league, but they're held so far back from that away run differential that they plummet to being one of the worst offenses in the league when it comes to run differential. It is just that is tough. It's very tough. And it's a prime example of why the Rockies have struggled on the road. The inability to score runs, the inability to drive runners in on the road tells a massive tale about this Rockies team that has struggled. If you can shift that, again, teams that are leading leagues in statistical categories and including wins are positive both home and away. The Dodgers are plus 41 away, plus 29 at home. Yankees are plus 38 away. Yankees are plus 31 at home. Angels plus 33 away, plus 24 at home. Houston plus 27 away, plus 13 at home. St. Louis plus 14 away, plus 23 at home. No team in the top 10, the only team with a negative run differential in the top 10 and a strong performing team when you look at the names of run differentials on this list is Milwaukee. They're the only team and they're minus 13 on the road. They're 41 plus 41 at home. They're the only team more dominant at home than the Rockies and a handful of other teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Angels. Looks like the Cardinals as well. But they're able to survive because they're that good. You got to be that good at home. And that's what you got to expect the Rockies to be too. But man, it's crazy too. Because again, you look at that Milwaukee line, only minus 13. I mean, minus 13 is still a big difference. That's a big difference in numbers. But compared to minus 46 for the Rockies, that's a big difference. That tells the story. That tells the story of how good Milwaukee's pitching staff has been. As Adrian has pointed out, the Bucks have got, or not the Bucks, the Brewers are going to be sneaky good. All right, let's take a question here from the live chat and wind things down for today. Eric Harper says, who does everyone think are the foundational pieces of our team moving forward? Well, I mean, look at the contracts. I mean, Kyle Freeland. I mean, it's going to be Kyle Freeland. It's going to be Ryan McMahon. It's going to be Senzatella. It's going to be Ramon Marquez. I mean, it's going to be basically what you're seeing on the field now with just more Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant will be there. It all depends on how, where Brendan Rodgers and some of these other young guys, prospect type guys pan out. But Charlie Blackmon still has a couple more years. And Elias Diaz, most of the Rockies core has already been re-signed. So just take a look at Bill Schmidt's people that he's re-signed, people that have signed extensions, and there's your Rockies core moving forward. Rockies take on the Giants tonight. I will want to be confident, want to be exciting, but man, there is not a team that the Dodgers are one thing, but man, I just don't have. I want to be more pumped about the Giants and the Rockies matching up, but I don't know. They have lost back-to-back games. The Cardinals gave the Giants a thumping. Maybe they'll have a nice road trip, but Giants know how to hit in cores, and they got a lot of pit. They have a lineup like we talked about with Ben over there on Locked On Rockies that's going to succeed at Coors Field. So it's got to become the Rockies pitching needs to come this series, and I think the offense is going to be there. Where even if it is not as much as the Royals, you still have confidence in the Rockies at home. Taking on the dreaded San Francisco Giants, but this one, this series is going to come down to the pitching. It's going to be on the pitchers, and we will see what happens. Antonio Senzatella getting the start today. Can he avoid the bats, or can he get the weak contact that he needs? Because again, Alex Wood, that heat is coming there. So. Here we go, folks. Giants in town. Big series, big division series. Well, let's see what happens. We'll be breaking it all down here on Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen. I know a little later today, but we had a nice crowd in the live audience today. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Shout outs to Adrian, Eric, Nick, and all of you out there joining us as well. And thank you to Caleb for submitting his talk about the run differential question as well. Follow us on Twitter at LO Rockies. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Go listen to Locked On Now and Locked On MLB for your second listens of the day. And stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Broncos podcast as a really exciting time in Colorado sports continues. You can find more of what I do at paulfholden.com. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33 on the old Twitter. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On